Sign the title over to me, old man, or find yourself somewhere else to sleep. That's what my son-in-law said to me in my own kitchen, standing in front of my own refrigerator, drinking my coffee out of my favorite mug, the blue one my late wife Helen bought me from a little shop in Savannah back in 2003. I didn't say a word back. I just looked at him. And I thought, okay, Cliff, okay, let me back up, because none of this happened overnight. These things never do. They creep up on you the way rust creeps up on a truck. You don't notice until one day you reach for the door handle and your hand goes right through it. My name is Clifford Baxter. I am 64 years old, retired from 31 years as a structural engineer with the county of Maricopa, Arizona. I own, or I did own, a 3-bedroom ranch house on a quiet cul-de-sac in Chandler, about 20 miles southeast of Phoenix. I bought that house in 1989, paid it off in full by 2018. Helen and I raised our daughter there. We planted the orange tree in the backyard together the spring after we moved in. By the time all of this happened, that tree was taller than the roof line. Helen passed in the winter of 2021. Pancreatic cancer. 11 weeks from diagnosis to the end. I don't talk about that part much. Some things you just carry. My daughter Noelle is 36. She's smart, genuinely smart, the kind of smart that got her a scholarship to Arizona State and a degree in marketing communications. I was proud of her. I am still proud of her, in the complicated way you can be proud of someone who has hurt you deeply. She met her husband Dex at a work conference in Scottsdale about 5 years ago. Dex sells commercial HVAC equipment. He's the kind of man who laughs a little too loud at his own jokes and calls everyone brother when he's trying to get something from them. They got married quickly. Courthouse ceremony, small dinner after. I bought them a KitchenAid mixer and a weekend in Sedona. I smiled through all of it. 14 months after Helen died, Noelle called me. It was a Sunday evening in February, still light out, that golden Arizona winter light that makes everything look painted. Dad, she said, we're in a tough spot. They had been renting an apartment in Tempe, $1,850 a month, 2 bedrooms. Dex had left his job or been pushed out, depending on who you asked and when. Noelle was between contracts. They had credit card debt I didn't know the full amount of yet. We were wondering, she said, if we could stay with you, just temporarily, until Dex gets back on his feet. I said yes without hesitating. Of course I did. That's my daughter. The house felt too large anyway, too quiet. Helen's reading glasses were still on the nightstand on her side of the bed. I thought having people in the house might help. I gave them the master bedroom. I want you to understand that. I gave them the room where Helen and I had slept for 32 years because I thought it would make them more comfortable. I moved my things into the smaller guest room at the end of the hall. The one we used to joke was barely big enough for a bed and a prayer. It was fine. I told myself it was fine. The first few months were actually decent. Noelle cooked sometimes. We'd watch TV in the evenings. Dex was working the phones, interviewing, he said. He drove a 3-year-old Ford F-150 he was still making payments on, and he always seemed to be on his phone outside on the back porch, pacing circles around my orange tree. I paid the mortgage, obviously. The house was paid off, but I covered property taxes, utilities, internet, the lot. About $900 a month in carrying costs. I also bought groceries most weeks. I didn't mind. I had my pension from the county and my Social Security, and Helen's life insurance had settled cleanly. I was comfortable. This was my family. But slowly, and this is the part that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't lived it, slowly I stopped feeling like I was in my own home. It started small. Dix reorganized the garage without asking me. I'd had a system for 30 years. Tools on the left wall, holiday bins stacked in the far corner. My late brother's fishing gear hung near the door. I came home from a doctor's appointment one afternoon to find everything shifted, rearranged by some logic I didn't recognize. When I mentioned it, Dex said he'd optimized the space. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Then it was the thermostat. I keep the house at 74 in summer, which in Arizona is already a concession to the electric bill. Dex preferred 70. He stopped asking. I'd come out in the mornings and feel the difference on my skin before I'd even fully woken up. Noelle stopped asking about my days. Not in a cruel way. She was busy, stressed, distracted. But I'd notice small things. The way she'd look at her phone while I was mid-sentence. The way dinner conversation shifted to be about their lives, their problems, their plans. And I became someone who nodded and passed the salt. Dex found a new job in October of that first year. Regional sales manager for an HVAC distribution company based in Tempe. Good salary, they told me. He leased a white Chevy Suburban, not bought, leased, and started wearing what I can only describe as business casual, aggressively. New boots, a smartwatch. He smelled like someone who had recently decided he was successful. They didn't move out. I waited, thinking maybe they needed a little more time to save up. A month passed. 2. I said nothing. By the second spring, about 16 months after they'd moved in, Dex had started making comments about the house. At first, I thought I was misreading them. The HOA fees here are pretty low for Chandler, he said one evening. Not a question. The kitchen could use new counters, he said another time. Granite's a good investment. And then one Saturday morning, I remember it was April, and the orange tree was doing that thing it does in spring where it drops blossoms all over the back patio. Dex sat down across from me at the breakfast table and said, "Cliff, I think it's time we talked about what your long-term plan is for the property." I put down my coffee. "My property," I said. "Well, right. But from a practical standpoint, you're 64, you're on your own. This is a 3-bedroom house. It's a significant asset. And Noelle and I, we're contributing to the household." I want to be precise about what he said next, because I've had time to replay it. "If we're going to be here long term," he said, leaning back, "it would make sense for us to have some stake in the property. Or alternatively, we could formalize things, contribute to the carrying costs. Either way, I think it's time to be adults about this." I said I'd think about it. I did not think about it. I immediately called my attorney. His name is Walt. No, wait, let me think of him differently. I've known my attorney for over 20 years. He's the kind of man who has seen every flavor of family dispute and remains, always, absolutely calm. I explained the situation. He listened without interrupting. "Cliff," he said when I finished, "do not sign anything, do not agree to anything, and come in next week." I did not tell Noelle about that call. The weeks after that were tense in a way I didn't know how to navigate. Dex brought up the property twice more, each time slightly more pointed than the last. He mentioned elder planning once, which I found interesting. I was 64. I could still do a proper push-up, and I'd hiked Camelback Mountain the previous November. And then came the Sunday morning in June. I was making eggs. Just eggs. Over easy, the way I always make them. Dex walked in, still in his gym clothes, and without any preamble at all, without so much as a good morning, he said, "We need to talk about the truck." I had a 2019 Ram 1500, bought used, paid cash, mine outright. It had been Helen's choice, actually. She liked that you could see over traffic. I'd kept it up meticulously. Oil changes on schedule, new tires the year before. "What about it?" I said. "The insurance is a liability issue," Dex said. "If something happened to you while driving and it came back on the house, that would be a problem. We should look at putting it in Noelle's name." I turned the burner off. I looked at him. "The truck," I said slowly, "is mine. I paid for it. It's insured in my name with my insurance." "Nothing about that. is your concern. Dex's face did something I had seen it do before. A tightening around the jaw, a flicker behind the eyes, like a door slamming inside a room where someone is trying to stay pleasant. "I'm trying to have a reasonable conversation," he said. "I know what you're trying to do," I said. That was the moment. Right there. Because I did know. I had known for months, actually, but I had been doing what men my age often do. Waiting, hoping, giving the benefit of the doubt past the point where doubt deserved any benefit. Dex wasn't worried about insurance liability. Dex was working a longer game. And I had been standing in my own kitchen, being slowly maneuvered out of my own life. I finished making my eggs. I ate them at the table by the window, the one that looks out at the orange tree. I watched a mourning dove sit on the fence for a while. I drank my coffee. That afternoon, I drove to my attorney's office and we had a long talk. Here is what I did not do. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I did not have the confrontation that Dex probably expected, the one that would have allowed him to frame me as unreasonable, emotional, a difficult old man who couldn't handle change. Here is what I did do. I called a real estate attorney my county engineer colleague had used years before, a woman named Faye who specializes in residential property transactions. I told her I was considering selling my home and asked her what the market looked like for a well-maintained 3-bedroom ranch in Chandler with an established yard and no mortgage. She told me to come in. The market, it turned out, was very good. Interest rates had pulled some buyers away from new construction and pushed them toward established neighborhoods with mature trees and real square footage. My specific cul-de-sac had seen 2 sales in the past 8 months, both above asking. "You could realistically list at $720," Faye told me, "and probably close over that. Maybe $750, $760 if we time it right." I sat with that number. Helen and I had bought that house for $187,000. We put in new windows in 2008, a new roof in 2015, redone the bathrooms in 2017. I'd maintained every inch of it. I told Faye I wanted to move forward. I want to be very honest about what happened inside me during the weeks that followed. There was grief in it, real grief. Not the sharp kind, but the dull, persistent kind, the kind that settles into your chest and just stays there. That house was Helen. The orange tree was Helen. The scuff on the baseboard in the hallway from when Noelle was 8 and dragged her bicycle inside was Noelle, or at least the Noelle I had raised and loved and was still trying to love through all of this. I did not sleep well for about 10 days, but I also felt underneath the grief something that I can only describe as clarity. Like when you've had a splinter so long you've gotten used to the dull ache, and then finally, you remove it, and your whole hand feels like it belongs to you again. I found a 2-bedroom apartment in Scottsdale. New build, 2nd floor, a balcony that faced west so I'd have the sunsets. The building had a small fitness center, a pool, underground parking. The monthly rent was $1,653, which on my pension and Social Security was completely manageable. I put down the deposit. I gave the leasing office a move-in date. All of this, the listing agreement, the realtor appointments, the apartment application, I handled during hours when Noelle and Dex were at work. I scheduled showings when I knew the house would be empty. Faye, to her absolute credit, was discreet and efficient. The listing went live on a Wednesday morning. There were 4 offers by Friday. We accepted an offer on day 8. A family from Gilbert, the Okafor family, moving from a smaller home as their kids got older. Faye told me the wife had walked through the backyard and stood under the orange tree for almost 5 minutes. The husband had asked 3 separate questions about the roof. They were serious people who intended to take care of the house. That mattered to me. The accepted offer was $1,000. The escrow period was 30 days. I said nothing to Noelle or Dex during that entire month. I want you to understand how strange it is to live inside a secret like that. Every evening, the three of us eating dinner in a house that I had already sold. Dex talking about some client deal that had fallen through, Noel asking about the weekend forecast, me passing the salt and saying the chicken was good. About 3 weeks into escrow, my attorney sent the formal notice of sale to the address, which, of course, was my address. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. I retrieved the mail that day, as I always did. The following morning, I had breakfast, fed the birds on the back patio, took a long look at the orange tree. Then I drove my Ram 1500 to my new apartment in Scottsdale, where my boxes were already waiting in the living room. I had hired movers the previous weekend, during a Saturday afternoon when Noel and Dex were at a friend's birthday party in Tempe. I did not leave a note. I left a house key on the kitchen counter, the same counter Dex had once suggested I replace with granite, and I pulled the door shut behind me. I was almost to the 101 freeway when my phone rang. It was Noel. I let it ring through to voicemail. It rang again 20 minutes later. Then Dex called. Then Noel again. By the time I had merged onto Scottsdale Road and could see the Camelback Mountain silhouette against the November sky, I had 7 missed calls between them. I sat in my new parking garage for a few minutes. Quiet. The concrete cool, the engine ticking as it cooled down. I thought about Helen. I thought about the orange tree. I thought about Noel at 8 years old, dragging that bicycle through the front door, and the way she'd laughed when I pretended to be furious about the baseboard. Then I called Noel back. She answered on the first ring. Her voice was high and strange, not quite crying, but not far from it. "Dad," she said, "what is going on? We got a letter. It says the house is in escrow. It says we have to vacate." "I know," I said. "What do you mean you know? How long has this been that we live here?" "You're guests here," I said. "You've been guests for 2 years. I let you stay, and you're welcome for that. But the house is mine, Noel. It has always been mine. Noel, it has always been mine." Then Dex got on the line. She must have put it on speaker. Cliff. His voice had that careful quality, the one he used when he was recalibrating. "Let's talk about this like adults." "We have already talked," I said. "You wanted to talk about my property. You wanted a stake in it. You wanted to put my truck in your wife's name for insurance reasons." I paused. I thought about all of it. This is my answer. Another silence. "We have 30 days, I said. "The escrow letter has all the details. I wish you both well." I hung up. Dex called back 4 more times that evening. I did not answer. Noel sent a text message that night. Long, painful to read. A mixture of genuine hurt and things she would probably regret writing if she read them again now. I read it twice. I did not respond. There are moments when silence is not cruelty. It is simply the only honest thing left. The close of escrow happened on schedule. The Okafor family sent me a photograph, through Faye, of their youngest son standing under the orange tree on move-in day. He was maybe 9 or 10, holding an orange with both hands, like it was something he'd found rather than something he'd picked. I kept that photograph. My new apartment in Scottsdale took some getting used to. The first week felt strange. Too many right angles, unfamiliar sounds from the unit above me. I made eggs in the morning, and the kitchen felt the wrong size. I sat on the balcony in the evenings and watched the sky go from gold to red to purple, and told myself that this was mine. Just mine. No one was going to come into the space and tell me what to do with it. Around my 3rd week in the new place, I got a call from a man at my church. We'd known each other casually for years, the kind of church acquaintance friendship built on adjacent pew seats and post-service coffee. He'd heard, through the quiet channels that church communities run on, that I had recently moved. He mentioned almost as an aside that his sister had also recently moved to Scottsdale after a divorce, and that she too was in her early 60s, retired from nursing and found the city better than she'd expected. Her name is Beverly. We had coffee the following week at a place near the Scottsdale waterfront. She ordered a cortado and told me she'd once hiked the full length of the Appalachian Trail in sections over 12 years, completing the last section at 61. She laughed easily. She had opinions about things. We've had dinner 4 times since then. I don't know what any of that becomes. I am 64 years old, and I have been a widower for 3 years, and the last relationship I had of any depth was with Helen, who I loved completely and lost too quickly. But I know that sitting across from Beverly at that table with the Scottsdale evening coming in through the window and the cortado half finished between us, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, like a person who was living forward instead of backward. Noel called me once more, about 6 weeks after the move. This time the voice was different, quieter, something wrung out of it. She didn't ask about the house. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was better than okay. She said she was sorry, in that incomplete way that leaves out the details of exactly what she's sorry for, but which still carries real weight. I said I appreciated that. I did not ask about Dex. She did not mention him. I don't know what's between us now, honestly. We are not estranged, not entirely, but we are not what we were either. What we were before 2 years ago, before she and Dex came to stay, just temporarily, and I made the mistake of treating my home like it was also theirs. That version of things is gone. Maybe something else grows in its place, or maybe it doesn't. Either way, I've made my peace with not knowing yet. What I know is this. I wake up in the mornings in a place that is mine. I make my coffee. I sit on the balcony and watch the sun come up over the McDowell Mountains, turning the whole sky the color of a peach. I drive my Ram 1500, still in my name, still on my insurance, to the hiking trails on weekends. I have dinner sometimes with Beverly, who makes me laugh and does not ask anything of me except my company. And somewhere in a neighborhood in Chandler, in a backyard I no longer own, an orange tree is full of food again. I hope whoever is standing under it right now knows how lucky they are.